Hello, my friends. Welcome back to yet another grooming session. We are getting into the grooming sessions that are the least fun of the year. Well, okay, second least fun. The first least fun is the grooming sessions that are spring shed. But this session is the start of our grooming heavily pregnant does. Denali actually, she took me some work to get her up on the stand. This pregnant mama is big, much bigger than she has been in past. This is only her second kidding. So I do expect her to be bigger than I've ever seen her before, generally speaking. The first time they kid, they have a single or twins. She had twins. The second time they kid, they're a little bit more experienced. Their bodies know what they're doing. They're older. And sometimes we get more kids. Moving the muck bucket, sorry about that. Other times we get the same amount of kids, but their bodies, expand, I would say, differently, right? They're sort of a little stretched already. They know the routine. And yeah, she is looking robust, is the best I can say. Isn't that right? And she is not happy about any of this. She knows, I think, at least this is my opinion anyway, she knows she's going to feel better. She didn't fight me doing her hooves. She didn't like it, right? She didn't like to have to stand on 3 legs while she's this big. She didn't like me playing around with her back feet because the back end of her is a little bit sensitive right now, understandably so. But she didn't fight me, which was nice. So there's that. And I can't complain. The other thing I cannot complain about, and I've been complaining about this for weeks at this point, is the weather. Look at me. I am in my summer grooming outfit, getting her up on the stand and getting her into getting her hooves done and getting ready for this. I actually broke a little sweat. Not like I do in summer, which is always embarrassing to have on camera, but I do it anyway. But it's kind of nice. It's kind of nice to be at a point where I had to take the jacket off. We're talking about, and this is really comical at this, but it's the way New Jersey weather works, right? You're going to see this in February, so I have no idea what the recent weather's been. This is being taped beginning of January. So what I'm talking about is ancient history at this point, but the point remains the same. The point is that we have weather that swings pretty dramatically sometimes, and it did exactly that this week. We went from being, I'm going to call it 3, almost 4 weeks straight of below freezing weather. And below freezing, 32 degrees Fahrenheit means that like our highs got to, maybe 28, 29 degrees Fahrenheit on a good day. And there were days that we didn't get above, 19 degrees Fahrenheit. After that type of weather and all the snow and ice, and we don't have deep snow, but we had snow, then rain, then more cold. So we ended up with a lot of ice. We have now had 2 days of above freezing weather, and this is day 3, and it's going to be the warmest day of the bunch. And we are going to get to as close to 50 degrees Fahrenheit for the high as we can. Right now, it's about 38, 39, and it feels so warm. It's just amazing how wonderful it feels just to have the sun shining. There is a little bit of a breeze, but it's not a cold breeze. It's not damp in the air, so it just feels good. And I was afraid that Miss Denali was going to be a whole bloody mess to get her groomed. And at least on this side, she's not too bad. I'm just about done on this side, which is amazing considering how she looks. Here, there's one little snag here that we will get to. And part of her issue, is she just has so much coat that it's impossible for her to not pick up vegetation, and that in turn is what kind of creates some of the snags that I'm working through. What I am not doing during this groom is spending much time below the belly. I'm going to do a little bit of her chest, and I'll do that on the side that's facing you. I might even, she's a master champion, so I'll probably even cut a little bit of this on her chest. But underneath her belly, you know, she doesn't have the same problems that the bucks have, where they urinate on themselves just by virtue of where their parts are. So, you know, the girls don't have that issue. They really only get tangled up in the chest area where they lay down. And for her, as a master champion, and about ready to kid, I am not going to waste my time or hers trying to get you can see she's like lifting up away from me. She really doesn't want me under there. It's uber sensitive at this point in her life, and I don't need to torture her with that. So we're just going to cut out some of these mats, and it may take a little bit of hair, but again, she doesn't need it. She's got so much coat. Plus, she's already a master champion, so she's not going back in the show ring. Plus, she's about to raise babies, and anything I can do to help her be more comfortable during that time, I'm going to do. At the end of kidding season, you'll see me talk about, you know, the fact that I'm going to probably have to cut some hair on their behinds where things have just gotten, you know, really bad back there. And again, working it through on a non-show goat, or a goat that's show retired like she is just not something that's necessary. I try not to cut their coats. You know, you've seen me work on coats significantly. I really don't want to cut them. And I'm doing this blind, by the way, so that's why it's taking forever, because I have to be really careful that, one, I don't get anywhere near her skin, and two, I don't really want to cut good hair, right? So I'm trying to feel the mat with my fingers, put the scissors on top of my fingertips, not cut my fingertips, of course, and just remove the mat. And these mats are created by them laying down to sleep, laying down to rest, and I think that'll do it. All right, so this is what we're talking about here. It's matted. I can take these, I could brush these out. I really could, right? And I could take the time to do that. But it would not be comfortable for her. She would not enjoy it. It would take longer than I really want her to be on the stand. And there's no reason for her to go through that. See, this is self-inflicted by her. We've talked about Denali before. Denali is a coat barberer. She self-soothes for whatever reason by chewing on her own coat. Thankfully, she's not passed that trait to any of her kids. And she hasn't taught any of the other goats in the herd to do it. So no one else has started to learn from her yet. But when they self-barber, which is what she's doing, you know, it's kind of like a kid sucking their thumb, right? She sucks on her coat and she makes her own crunchy tangles here that we have to comb through. But aside from that, her coat's in pretty good shape. It doesn't feel dry. It doesn't feel winter damaged. She's got some split ends. With her and, you know, Lotus, for example, are goats with the longest coats. They're going to have damage at the bottom of their coats because it drags on the ground. They step on it. Other goats step on it. And that's just part and parcel of being a long hair goat. So I had mentioned, you know, again, these are the only videos that I stack, right? Meaning that I groom and then I only release one grooming a week so that you don't get bored. So I have a backlog of them, and my backlog right now is about 4 weeks. It's probably the most it's ever been, and the most it ever will be. And that's because I did a bunch of batching right before that big cold snap so that I did not have to be out here and doing this with them in the deep freeze. And that worked out beautifully. So you will see this about, like I said, about 4 weeks after I record it. But she is due to kid end of February. And that's, of course, you know, I know the exact date we bred her and exposed her. So theoretically, I know conception date, but kidding windows are not exact. They are usually pretty good within, I would call it a 5-day margin of error, but they can be as much as 10-day margin of error. So, I start to put everybody on watch at least 15 days before their due date, unless I see something significant that concerns me. So we will start her baby watch in and around Valentine's Day. And you will probably be seeing this video just a week or two before that. So that's exciting, right? At the time of this recording, she does not yet have an udder. I don't expect her to have an udder at this time. I actually don't want her to have one, right? So creating an udder full of milk takes resources from the body. And we don't want them to divert resources from the babies just yet. So I don't want them to have an udder full of milk this early on. Sometimes the first freshener will do that because their bodies are just nuts and they don't know what's going on. But most mature, healthy does will not get an udder until like a week, sometimes 10 days before kidding, and sometimes not until after they've actually kidded. That was nerve-wracking the first time that happened for me, right? I knew this doe was pregnant. I kept checking for an udder every day. She wasn't creating an udder. We were like absolutely mortified that we were going to have to bottle raise whatever she had because she was not creating milk. And we were super concerned. And, some people told us all, we were a little bit newer at the time, right? And we kept getting told by all our mentors, don't worry about it. It'll happen. Nature will take care of it. No, her due date is tomorrow. She has no udder. She's going to have babies. We have to have formula on hand. We need to have colostrum on hand. We're running around. We're looking for, we're getting bottles. We're getting everything ready. And frankly, that's like buying snow tires, right? You get everything ready, and then thankfully you don't need it. So she kidded, and she still had no udder at the time that she was giving birth. So yeah, I'm yelling at the husband, right, as we're pulling babies and getting the babies dried off. Go get all the supplies. We're going to need to get colostrum. We're going to have to feed them. And by the time we got the babies dried off, by the time we sort of got everybody organized and up and ready to be put into the kidding pen, the bonding pen, really, it's not really even a kidding pen, our bonding pen, her udder had come in and she had milk. Well, she had colostrum. And over the next 24 hours, her udder was full. I never had to pull a baby. They were well fed. They were taken care of. It was incredible, though, the change that happened in such a short period of time between no udder, no milk, to plenty of milk for babies. And she had twins, so thankfully we didn't have to bottle raise them. I know. All right, so what's happening now, just so I can keep you up to speed here, is I want to brush out back here behind her. So, she has hair, of course, they have hair everywhere. She does not have hair on her vagina or her, rear end, but around it, there's hair. And that hair gets dirty, it gets wet, it gets, just like the bucks, it gets urine stained, and it gets sticky and clumpy. And what I want to do before she gives birth is get that all out and as straight and as clean as possible. Obviously, I'm not bathing her, but I want to get all that, those knots, those clumps out. They're not bad. They're just urine stuck to the hair. And I do that because once she gives birth, all that hair that I just kind of cleaned out the clumps for are going to be full of clumps again. Between, the bodily fluids, the baby's chewing on them as they look for her udder and her teats, that part of the hair gets really abused. So the better chance to keep her, I know, I'm sorry. The better chance I have at keeping that hair healthy, keeping her comfortable. She doesn't really know that yet, but is to keep it as free of clumps, free of tangles as possible right up until the date. Now, she's extra sensitive back there, and if you're a mom, I've never been pregnant, but I understand if you're a mom and you've been pregnant and you've gone through it, when you are a few weeks away from having babies, I'm not sure you want to be touched anywhere. She certainly doesn't, and that's true for all our does. I do try and give all the does a pre-kitting grooming, right? And it's going to be very similar to what you're seeing here, which is a standard grooming, a little bit lighter on some areas, a little bit more focus on the back end, just enough so that they're going in to their kidding season as beautiful as they can be, but also really as comfortable as they can be, right? Tangles, they don't really get bothered by tangles, similar to any wild animal, but they're no fun. Nobody wants tangles in their hair. And if you imagine, that those tangles are knots and they could get, pulled, they could get stuck, right? That could be uncomfortable. And we don't want that for her at all, or any of our does. So we do try and get them groomed up before they give birth. And then they ruin everything by giving birth and making a mess with everything. Not their fault, it's just what happens. So she is done. And my little lecture on pre-kitting is done. If you're still here for this video, at this point in the video, I thank you so much for being a part of the community, for loving these animals as much as I do, for your support. Every view makes a difference. Every share, every like, every comment makes a difference. And if you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and subscribe. Doesn't do anything for you. It does a little bit for us. It tells YouTube you like us. It tells YouTube to maybe send me out to some other folks that haven't found me yet. And every little bit gets me a little tiny bit closer to taking a piece of that advertising that they're going to show you anyway. Subscribing to the channel does not send you emails. It does not sign you up for your newsletter. And it also does not tell me who you are. I have no idea whether you've subscribed or not. And I would never, ever take a record of that anyway. If you want to be on my newsletter, you have to sign up for that separately. And that's on my website. But at any rate, I really appreciate you being here. I hope you are having a fantastic day wherever you are in this world. Please take care of yourselves, take care of each other, be kind, and stay tuned because we're not too far away from babies. Have a fabulous day. Bye for now.